Hey, what's going on? It's Will with Neff Family Financial. Being in final expense for 10 years, the bulk of my career was as a field agent. One of the things we talked about a lot was conversion rate, the amount of deals that you close versus the amount of leads that you take. I just wanted to know 100%, like across the board, what was what with each type. Okay, so breaking it down by lead type, web leads has a 10% conversion rate for field agents and 6% for telesales. This is an average. Some of these numbers I'm not buying it. It's breaking down between field and telesales conversion. Web leads, 10% field, 6% telesales. TV commercial leads, field agent 15%, telesales 13%. Direct mail, 27% in the field and 15% telesales. Live transfer inbound calls, 27% and 22%. Aged leads are 3%. And I don't know what it means aged. I don't know if it's 90 days, 6 months, a year, what they're considering aged leads, but aged leads 3%, which we know those are low through direct mail leads. We have a 9 times higher rate, average closing rate from 3% to 27. Am I doing that math right? I don't know. 3 to 27. Okay. It is what it is. But overall, aged leads based on the data, 3%. Contact rate on webs, field agent 35 to 50%. It's 42.5%. Right? Can we just all agree? It's 42.5%. Why, if you're giving me an average, why give me a range? And telesales is 55%. Contact rates on direct mail for field is 65%. Telesales is 70%. Appointments set in the field only. So door knocking appointment sets, 50 to 65%. So 57.5%. Sit rate from appointments, 70 to 85. So 77.5%. 78% is your sit rate from appointments. So if you're a field sales, this is why they beat appointments so hard. Whether you're calling to set them, door knocking to set them, whatever you're doing. When you have an appointment, somebody's expecting you to be there. 78% sit rate from appointments. Even a new agent's going to close 30%. Somebody's terrible at this, stumbles over everything, can't remember anything. They're going to find enough people from that sit that want the product, regardless of how good that person is. Average cost per issued policy acquisition. I don't agree with this either. It says a web lead, the average cost per client is between $400 to $900. The biggest thing I was looking at was the conversion rate, right? That's what you're going to pay attention to. So this is industry average. So that takes into consideration somebody on Glassdoor complaining about the company they were at or any other job or insurance forum. I'm not buying this. I just thought the conversion ratios were interesting. The 3% on the aged leads, like that's, I can't beat that horse enough. You know what I mean? If you're stuck in a world where that's common practice for you, where you know that there's not enough people working in certain areas or whatever the case might be, if you're constantly running leads that are 5, 6, 7, 8 months old, make sure you're not paying north of $10 for those leads. I can tell you all day how great it is to not pay interest if the company's financing your leads where you're paying it back out of your advances. But if I'm paying full boat for leads that are 6 months old, that's interest, no matter how you slice it, right? Because that same data, I could buy the information from multiple lead sources. Okay, average activity per sale, 8 to 15 door knocks. Between door knocks or preset appointments, 8 to 15. The average is 12 to 20 houses. That's 1 to 3 sales. That's for field agents. Telesales outbound, meaning you're just calling whatever leads you get, 80 to 150 dials per day. 100 to 200 calls equals 1 to 3 sales. And then live transfers. Yeah, they're expensive, but you're buying your time back, right? The calls I get, the calls I'm on board with, 100 to 200 calls, to average a sale a day. But the live transfer, the inbound, it's 5 to 15. So just look at the numbers, you know. The live transfer is 70, 80 bucks, $100 in some cases. If I'm spending $500 a day to average 3 to 4 sales, your average commission is probably $500, $600. I mean, that's nuts. There's a huge advantage. It's not terrible. It's like 85% for door knock for field agents, and 78% for telesales, inbound, outbound, whatever. Because you're going to lose some of that relationship. Some of these people are going to stick with you because of the view. It's hard for them to know you over the phone versus meeting you in person, you being at the house. Experienced killers can do 4 to 6 houses per sale. Okay, I see where it's going with this. Average agent's about 10 door knocks or houses per deal written. So if you're looking to get in this industry, if you're new to the industry, you can't get a straight answer, you're just trying to figure out what's what. Where's it at? Okay, so for telesales outbound, for a newer agent, about 120 calls per sale. Industry midpoint, 75 calls per sale. Door knock agents, you know, I think almost everybody I talk to, it's, you know, they're working 20 minimum fresh leads a week. You're trying to, you know, your goal is to sell as many as possible in a day. I mean, on a good day, you run into enough people, you're not going to knock all 20 of those doors, but you should be able to get through all 20 of those leads in 2 to 3 days. At least hit that door one time, depending on how wide the net is, the area that you're working. You know, and then backfill in with some other stuff you've got from that area, so that you always at minimum have 20 houses to go see on a daily basis. You know, but if your goal is 20, you're probably going to average 12 to 15 houses. You should see 6 people, right? 2 minimum. If you're not, figure out what's broken. The leads aren't necessarily broken if you know that you're working aged stuff, okay? But if your stuff's fresh and you're not hitting these numbers, something's broken, right? Get with somebody, work on your script, work on your presentation, check yourself, right? Like before you wreck yourself. Yeah. Are you getting in the house and not selling because you can't get in the door? So work on your door approach. If you're getting in the house, you're doing a bunch of presentations. You know, if you're one of my agents and you're calling me up or showing me your daily activity sheet and you got 3 appointments a day or 3 sits a day and you're closing 1 deal every 2 or 3 days, your presentation is trash. We gotta fix that quick. You know, same thing with your door approach. If you're doing no presentations, you just can't get in, you're talking too much at the door. Get with somebody, tighten that up. You know, a lot of times it just takes a couple quick fixes. You know, tighten this up. Tell them you need them really, really bad. You were just getting ready to do that. So what got me looking into this was the amount of people who I talk to, recruits, that seen a video somewhere, watched something, seen something, some influencer on TikTok sold something over the phone somewhere, you know, and they thought, today's the day I jump in, I get my license, and I'm gonna call everybody, and which is fine. I would have not made it if I knew that I had to buy 50 to 100 leads a week for 2 to 3 weeks before I started averaging 1 app a day. I wouldn't have survived. What shocks new agents in the field? Less volume, more emotional exhaustion, much higher close percentages, much lower rejection volume. I don't know why I would be shocked for lower rejection. If they're new, how do they know what to expect? And then in telesales, it's an insane rejection volume, obviously. Faster cycles, obviously less travel, requires emotional detachment. So yeah, you've got to be emotionally detached because you're going to get, you know, they're going to beat you up. If you can deal with that, go telesales. If you like to drive, go in the field and work anywhere. Honestly, I don't know about every state. I know in Ohio and Indiana for sure. Wherever you're at, talk to whoever's responsible for putting leads in your hands. Find the closest rural area to you. If it's an hour and a half away, just make that part of your day and beat that up. Get used to that 3 hour round trip every day. But the rural communities are honeypots because they don't get worn out as much. And I can knock on the doors of these people out in the middle of nowhere, and the bulk of the time they're home. They ain't got a whole lot going on. You're going to catch them. You're going to write something. That's all, right? The field agents, 12 to 20 houses a day. You're looking to sit with 6 people minimum to write 1 to 3 apps. And figure minimum 100 calls a day on telesales. And like, you got to commit to that, you know. And that's what I wanted to talk on, was the conversion ratio. I just thought it was interesting. I knew what we did. I was just curious on the industry. What are your thoughts? Anybody that's been doing this, what are you getting? Whether you're doing telesales, whether you're a field agent, are you tracking your numbers? Do you have real numbers, you know, and are these numbers off? Like, I'd be curious. I'd love to talk to somebody that just likes to do weird stuff and worked age leads on purpose just to see if they could somehow scrape 15 or 20% out of there instead of the 3, maybe 5 or 6 if you were a really good closer. I'd love to talk to somebody that went totally against the grain and spent a quarter a piece on 10,000 leads or some nonsense and wrote, I don't know, made a bunch of money off of it. I don't know, stuff like that just gets me excited. So, yeah.